Imagine if your team had an 800% increase in the number of meetings that they had. Like, just think about that. That would be absolutely crazy. Think about the number of deals that can be created. Think about the number of the much revenue you guys can generate. And think about the confidence in your team. My guest today, James Donaldson, did exactly this with one of his clients. And he's going to give us the playbook of what they did. You're going to love it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. On this episode, I have James Donaldson, and he runs an organization where they definitely are fans of cold calling and specifically building cold outbound teams and giving them the tools and necessary mindset that's going to help them to be as successful as possible. In this episode, he breaks down what they do, how they did it to help one of their clients get an 800% increase in the number of meetings that they were booking. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel or to wherever you're listening to the podcast. We'll make sure to notify you every time we drop a new piece of content. As we dive into this episode, you get a chance to learn about what James did for his client. You'll hear about the challenge that they have. And I feel that many of us fall in that same category where we just feel stuck and don't know where to go. If you find yourself in that area as well, you probably want to check out our mastermind. We have a sales mastermind where sales reps get a chance to practice their sales pitch, get a chance to get help with objection handling, and get a chance to learn from other sales professionals. We meet for 3 months, and we meet weekly. It's an hour-long session. You do it during lunch, and we get a chance to really help sellers like yourself to just improve their game and practice. We'd love to have you. Find more details by going to thesalesevangelist.com/mastermind. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/mastermind. For the end of the year, we're cutting the prices, and it's pretty significant. We'd love to have you join us. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/mastermind. Let's get a chance to learn a little bit more about what James is doing with the problem that they're facing with their clients. Check it out. James, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Donald. Good to be here.
I was bragging about you a little bit there in the teaser and some of the things that you're doing, especially around cold calling. This is an area that I find is one of the places that's actually working right now. If I were to pick my two, it would be LinkedIn and cold call. Those two are my top. Email. Though email is good, but it comes up as that third, right? But there's a reason why you're so passionate about cold calling. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's partly obviously there's a bias from how you were trained, how you were taught to do it, right? So that's where it probably started. But and I think your point on why cold calling and LinkedIn are so good is because they're the most human. You can, at least with LinkedIn, you can see the person, you can read their background. There's that human touch. When you actually speak to someone on the phone, you can tell if someone's trustworthy, credible. You can get all that human interaction way better, and it builds trust way faster than any other channel. And I'm a big fan of talking to people. You want to understand people before you try and sell them stuff.
Well, and I feel like there's I don't know, when you're on a phone with someone, it's much harder to hang up that phone call than it is to delete the email or ignore it or not pay attention to that LinkedIn message. I mean, not that we want to just pigeonhole people in a corner, but especially if you have something relevant, even if they're busy and you interrupted them, they're grateful for it because you just brought them something that they didn't know. I mean, didn't know they had a solution. There was a solution for it. But you identified the problem, and then now it's able to at least have a dialogue. And I find that I've gotten so many better conversation opportunities through the phone than I have through just sending aimless, countless emails, because there's, I don't know, it just something happens in that moment. Am I off on that?
No, you're completely right. I always say this to people that I coach and I work with is when you're doing the cold calling, you're inviting someone into a two-way conversation. And that is far more inviting. So far more like successful than any other channel. You're inviting them to a two-way conversation. It's a real dialect, and you're going to get further. You're going to be able to present your ideas, show them that you're credible, and then lead with the reason why you're calling. Why are you reaching out? It's very if you do those things right, it's very hard for people to ignore it, like you say, to hang up, like you said. And it is where all good relationships start, right? With a conversation.
Well, you guys did this masterfully. And as you see in the episode title, you guys had an 800% increase in meetings. You 6x your pipeline all through cold call.
Yeah.
Take me back to what in the world? How did you do this? Before, let's go back to prior this happening.
Yeah.
What was it like before this? I mean, obviously you guys were in chump change. You're obviously doing something well, but still yet now you did something even better to get to 800%. Talk to me what it was like days before the 800%.
Yeah, of course. So this was actually with one of our key customers, one of our favorite customers. Really hardworking team. Like first and foremost, real hardworking. They know exactly how their product can solve problems. They know exactly why they've built it. They know exactly who they need to be speaking to, or the various personas they can speak to. But what happens, and this is often what we see when we're working with companies, is they have all this great product knowledge and they know how, if this comes up, I'm going to say this. If that comes up, I'm going to say this. If that comes up, I can talk about this feature. And you never quite get into the conversation enough to bring those things up anyway, because the most important thing on the cold call is that initial introduction, getting permission, giving them something to be curious about. And so life, I guess, the life before we made all the changes, which I'm sure we're going to come on to, was a lot of hard work, but without any structure around the actual day-to-day prospecting of what you were trying to achieve.
So go deeper on that. Like, what is that like? Am I just getting a list out of Apollo, making a phone call? What was that like for this client before?
So you have a big database, you have big list of accounts, which they're in the vertical that has good budgets. Classic. A lot of people like to try and sell to finance companies because they have money to spend. So you build a list of accounts, you go to LinkedIn, you find contacts, you add them in, and then you call. And then you add another one, you call them, you add another one, you call them. And even if you build a big list from, maybe it's an Apollo, maybe it's a Zoom Info, and you have this big target list of accounts, it's just call. They connected or they didn't connect. And then I'll move on to the next one. I see more and more these days also people just relying on, if there's a mobile number, I call it.
Yeah.
And then if I can't get a mobile number, I move on to the next contact. If I do speak to somebody, I need to try and book a meeting, or I haven't, in which case I'll forget about them. And that is when you're just then kind of spraying and praying, for lack of a better word, right? And that's where we see teams really struggle to get traction and consistency.
Is this what this client was like?
Yeah, a lot of hard work, bit of a spray and pray approach into the entire list of accounts that looked good, but without measuring the number of dials into a specific prospect. So they can understand how many dials have they given that individual prospect enough effort versus, I always come back to the consistent effort over time. That's what you're aiming for.
Yeah. What is that number? Is there a certain a benchmark that you try to look at for a number of dials?
Yeah, I typically like to use the benchmark of roughly within a 3-month period, you want to be trying to call that person at least into the double digits. So 12 to 15 times, probably across those 3 months. No, and that doesn't mean, caveat that heavily with, it's not 15 times in one day. That's times, several different, maybe off a couple of different numbers, different times across different weeks, different days. And you need to build your list. Going back to that, the step before that on the spray and pray, you need to have a list that is a manageable size so that you can make roughly that number of dials across a good number of accounts, so that you're not just calling the same person every single day at the same time.
Yeah.
And those are the little structural things that I think people forget or don't realize they need to consider to have consistent outbound.
Love it. Well, one of we had connected, and you mentioned there's 3 things that you saw this client did. And the first one was, it was fascinating to me. It was around, it's not just black and white. Like you mentioned that you got to shift the mindset, the way you look at, read it exactly, shift the mindset from black and white view of cold call. Talk to me about this. You emphasize follow-up in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the time when SDRs are told, start calling, try and book meetings, that's all they're trying to do. So they'll go into calls and you see it, they'll try and pitch somebody. They have my problem. They have the problems that we can solve. Can we have a meeting? Yes or no? So I've either booked a meeting or I haven't, and then they just move on. Whereas what you actually need to be doing is almost gaining the right to talk to them again or to follow up in the future. So from no meeting and meeting, if that's our scale, there's maybe 6 or 7 different outcomes within that, which might be call me back in a year's time, call me back in 6 months. In 3 months is going to be better for us. Share me a bit more information around this area and then give me a call back. Actually, let me go and talk to a colleague and then give me a call back next week. Or I'm the wrong person, but hey, Donald, he'd love to talk to you about this. Here's his number, give that person a call. And so when I talk about moving the mindset away from the black and white, you need to move it more towards what are all the gray areas? What are the things that could lead to a good conversation, but maybe aren't right now? Or maybe we need more context on, so I can give you a call in X amount of time. And that consistent follow-up is what's going to allow you to move prospects into your funnel at the right time. Because if you're just relying on that black and white, I can book a meeting or I can't, you're basically just hoping to hit people at the right time, on top of the right pitch, right positioning. Everyone's in the right mood that day.
But it seems like that's hard to track, though. Like the black and white one is easy to track. How do I? One, I know you said change the mindset. So one, the individual mindset has to change, but also the sales leader mindset of the change. And then 2, making sure we track and stay on top of that. Am I making sense on this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all very good me saying, "I'll change your mindsets," and then everyone starts to do that. But you have that creates more follow-ups, but it's only going to work if you know where those follow-ups are. A lot of people use tasks and CRMs. I personally don't think that's the best way for SDRs to start to implement that, because you just end up with that big red list of people who haven't answered and you're just changing it to tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The way I often do it is I will try and restructure the CRM so that most people are familiar with how to build a list view of accounts or a list view of contacts. And then lead statuses, I will always change the lead statuses to reflect something much closer to the outcome of that call and how I'm going to reapproach them. So for me, there's typically email and callback, a long-term callback, referral, and then you need to timestamp it so that each morning, if I start calling this week on a campaign or into a new list, every conversation I'm hopefully putting people into the right window to follow up with them. So James, in a month's time, half of my meetings are going to come from people I've already spoken to, or half my conversations are. And then that's when you get that compound effect. So restructure CRM, contact level statuses, timestamps.
Love it. Very interesting strategy to go about it. And I feel like when you say the mindset shift, I'm thinking about the leader as well, how she or he, it can't just be, well, Donald, you didn't book the appointment. It has to, I think that all those measurable things has to happen or be able to be judged on how effective I am on my day-to-day basis, because that's going to lead to those end results. How do you approach that with these leaders that you work with?
Yeah. So with the leaders, I think people will be pretty familiar with the things they need to measure: conversation rates, booking rates, all that type of stuff. But also start to look at how many status changes. If my SDRs had 10 conversations a day, how many status changes have they actually made against those contacts? That's going to be an indication of, okay, we're actually creating other steps. There's actually something came off the back of that. And then you want to start to structure the leadership's time with that team can start to gear towards more and more coaching on specifics of calls, the quality of calls, the follow-up. If someone has had 5 or 6 conversations today, all of those statuses have changed, but they're a little bit behind target, well, you can go back to your metrics and look at the numbers and, okay, X amount dials to conversation to meeting. So this person should have booked a meeting. But when you listen to them and you see the notes and you see the status changes, if you can see that progress, well, they're probably 3 meetings. They've got 3 meetings in the bag for next week, for whenever. And then you need to start looking at the conversion off the back of that. Because the theory and what I prove with clients that I work with all the time, this will start to improve conversion rates further down as well.
Interesting. I want to think about this. I love this, and I feel like any leader listening to this need to pay attention to that part and go back and play it again. But I want you to double tap on this topic with cold calls and with the change of the mindset. Another mindset shift is apples. And let me preface this. I think I had it today. I got a call, and I'm getting these calls, and I can push people to voicemail if I don't know who they are. And then obviously some of them are pushing up as spam if they don't have proper number. But let's say I'm a seller, my number is clean, and I go to this, call this prospect. I'm on home mobile, and I get that wonderful Apple voicemail to introduce myself. How is this impacting, or what are your approach as we come to this era in mindset adjustment?
Yeah, I think people need to just really make sure they're leading with value. If you're cold calling and you're being successful at cold calling, you're probably leading with the problems, talking about the value, maybe referring to some other references and case studies or whatever, making your intention for that call quite clear early on as well. I'm a big fan of always saying that want to see if any of that was relevant. If so, put some time aside at a later date. I do that on all my calls. So now with the Apple changes, if it comes up whilst you're calling and you get thrown off, lead with the value and what you've maybe done for similar companies, and keep it short and brief. You don't want somebody to have to listen to a whole pitch. It's not, I think what some people will be doing is panicking and thinking, oh, I have to pitch this now, and then the person might come back to me. And that's not human. So just brevity, value, ask them to maybe get back to you if it's relevant, allude to maybe another avenue, make it easy for them to pick up and engage or spark curiosity. The worst thing to do is just panic and just put your pitch in earlier. And
that's what I found. And I'm speaking for myself here. I've done that. Where you're doing a bunch of cold calls, you automatically get a voice message and you panic and you just go ahead and leave that generic voice message because I didn't know what to do at that point. I was too busy playing a game on my phone while I was doing the call, or looking something up, playing on social media or whatnot. But that's interesting. So I'll go back again. Fundamental thing there: lead with a value,
and brevity.
Yeah, and brevity. You don't need to give them all. There is. You talked about this idea too. I want to go to number 2 because this client that you guys saw this 800% increase with, you mentioned that that in order for a company to get to those type of results, they must have a repeatable structure for cold call. Can you define or explain to me what that repeatable structure is? I know you talked about a little bit early on where how we go about finding stuff, but can you go a little bit deeper on that?
Yeah, of course. So, and there's so many tools now, AI tools like Second Body. I know Hypergrowth, the dialers, Orem and Nooks, they have these conversational AIs. So you can literally train these to have a persona that will go try and force your team to stick to the structure a bit more. But so you can set it up for however you want. And I've seen lots of variations of this, but I always try and go with introduction and permission. Once you've got that permission to speak, you're not an interruption. It's not an awful time. They're happy for you to elaborate on why you were calling. Then it's the problems you solve, who you usually solve those for. Those are the bits that need to be spark curiosity. And then one sentence on we help by doing this, or we are a whatever. That bit needs to be really brief. And then this is where I think I normally differ to not everyone, but to some companies these days, or some coaches, is that's part of your pitch. And then at the end of your pitch, you need to say that you were hoping to have a meeting if it was relevant, because that signals to the prospect, hey, I wasn't calling to have a long conversation now for you to tell me everything about your cybersecurity instance right now. I'm looking to just build some familiarity, introduce myself. And if it's a good use of your time and we can agree on that, put half an hour aside next week or in the week after. It's about signaling your intent. And that will get you into a good two-way conversation 9 times out of 10. And from there, you can assess when or if it's a good call.
Yeah, it's not given. Go back to, I think the idea behind this too is the brevity. You're not giving everything all at once.
Yeah.
but also it's leading on top of the other.
Yeah.
I find like especially junior seller, they feel they have to share everything while that person said hello,
Yeah.
because it's the scarcity mindset that I'm gonna lose them, they're gonna hang up. But if I don't do that with my friends, I don't call
Hmm.
you up and say, hey James, it's Donald. This weekend I want to go out and go to basketball game because this could happen. What do you think? I'm
Yeah.
not giving
Yeah.
you everything at once because I know you're going to be like, hey, what's up, DK? What's going on? You're going to shoot the breeze for whatever. In this case, you're
Yeah.
not necessarily shooting the breeze, but you're making it natural. And I hate those fake ones where they try to be friends. But in your case, this is you're simply telling me who you are. You're asking me, getting the permission.
Hmm.
Can I share? And then you're going into the next step, who you help, the why you're reaching out to me,
Yeah.
point of it. And that's sequential because that permission to talk is engagement. And
Yeah.
that piece, even though it's not a huge engagement, that little thing is engagement
Yeah.
because then now they're listening for that why. And then at the end of that why, I'm sure you have a question that you ask them
Yeah.
that gets them to respond. And then at that point, we're going to decide if we go blue pill or red pill, right? If
Yeah.
they take it
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
not at that point.
Yeah.
Am I making sense
And
there?
yeah, absolutely, and I can completely agree. And use slightly different language to me, and it just proves my point. Like anyone who's been really successful on the phone, they have that very similar structure. Where for me, that question at the end of that pitch is always, "I wanted to see is that relevant? If so, could we put some time aside?"
Mhm.
That means that whatever happens after that, normally where people do the objection handling and prospects start to tell you about their world, it's already set up for, hey, together we're trying to work out if it would be a good use of time to put something in the diary. It's not me
Yeah.
just trying to ask for a meeting, trying to say, oh, can I show you my demo? Can I show you this next week? And to your point, that's that scarcity mindset, which when people are early in their careers, or even when they just got a big target on their back
Oh
and
yeah.
they're feeling the pressure, that's when it comes in, and you just keep asking. It's like you're actually doing yourself a disfavor.
Yeah.
I always like to caveat that with you have to ask or make it clear you're hoping to have a meeting at some point on that call.
Yeah. And I think that piece is it's important, but it's not pushy, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
giving you my intention.
Exactly.
Of why we're meeting. I want to go into the one of the other points you gave me. The last point you gave me was you gave them the right CRM structure for cold calling.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like my CRM is a CRM. Like what's the structure of my CRM for cold call?
So most CRMs are great, are set up and they're great for deal management, pipeline management, customer management,
Mhm.
and your SDRs. Like one of the simple things is you want to reduce the number of clicks they have to make between dials. So if they've got their list of accounts, but then they have to go into the account and then navigate from there to find the contacts and then go to the contacts. And then they have to click to pull up the LinkedIn page and then they make a call. You're going to be slowing them down. You want to make a nice, clean view for them. And I can do this in any CRM, done it in pretty much most CRMs that people will be using these days. That you want to be able to have all the list of accounts with all of the contacts and their contact data visible on the same tab, same view, so I can work consistently through that list. As soon as I get off a call, I need to be able to put my notes in and update the status and the timestamp, and then I can move on. You want to minimize all of their effort to that. You can pretty much do that all from that one view. It's really easy to do in Pipedrive and HubSpot. You can do it in Salesforce as well. It takes a little bit more tweaking to set that up, but it means it's like putting on a headset and getting locked in. They're locked
Yep.
into that screen. Cool. I know exactly where I am. I know exactly whilst I'm calling this person, I know exactly who else I've spoken to. I can see the other statuses. I know where I'm going next. And you start to build more familiarity with that list. And that's going to help increase confidence in the list, focus, and that also starts to feed into that compound effort over time.
I like that. But how long if I'm a sales leader, I'm listening to this, how long does it take me to get that setup going? Or how do I start doing that setup? Any advice?
Maybe depends a little bit on how capable your CRM admin is. It's a day, a 2 days of work, like focused work. As long as, assuming you have the right accounts already. If you have the right accounts and the right contacts, it's a day's work. If you don't have the contacts, you think you might have the accounts, it's a couple of days work. Just to do the initial analysis, chunk that up into typically lists of 100 accounts at a time. That's a sort of a manageable list amount and means that the team will do consistent work into that before you give them more data. So you're avoiding that spray and pray.
You mentioned to me before that they need the correct tools and also consistent training.
Yeah.
Go deeper on that one for me, because this is tied back to the CRM structure.
Exactly. Everything you just spoken about, that is going to make it easier for your reps to do the role, work consistently, make more calls, have more conversations, update notes. So that, if we can focus them in that way through the structure and stuff, it means you should have more time to do coaching, to upskill the team. It's people, process, tech. You have to find time to coach, upskill the team. And if you can set up the CRM so they can make more calls, have more conversations, you're going to hear them doing more calls. So give them feedback immediately. If you're in an office, give them feedback whenever you get the chance, every time they get off the call. It only has to be a small thing, but you're building that, I guess, that neural pathway, that familiarity with taking feedback, which is going to help them upskill and is going to encourage them. That's actually quite good getting DK to tell me when he tells me this off a call. So actually they'll start to be more proactive. And this is that a lot of what I talk about and focus on whenever I'm building, outbound sales teams. They're going to be doing more prospecting. So it's where can we find like areas of consistent feedback loops, which breeds more coaching and helps them focus more. That's the whole reason we built our business.
Well, I love this, man. If there's 800% increase in meetings, it's pretty dope. I'm sure that client was pretty happy with you.
Yeah.
From getting
still
that.
With us. So yeah, they're doing
you.
pretty well. They're doing pretty well.
Doing pretty well. If there's one piece of advice you would give to a sales leader or a sales rep listening to this episode, and they're craving for that, even if it's like 100% increase in appointment, what's that one major piece of advice you'd give them?
Work out a consistent structure and a consistent way to focus. Probably a better way of saying it is remove as many distractions that aren't to do with contacting, speaking to more people, and then asking for feedback on those conversations. Anything that doesn't contribute to that is noise.
Love it. Listen, James, thank you so much for coming on the show today. If folks are trying to get in touch with you to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing, how did they go about connecting with you?
Yeah, best place to learn about us in the business, stacky.io, or I'm always on LinkedIn, and my mobile number is not hard to find at all, so feel free to call me.
All right, James, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate this.
Thanks for having me. Been great.
That was James Donaldson. I'm telling you, man, delivered some good insights today. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and follow him on LinkedIn. You can check out his company as well. We have their link in the show notes, which gives you an opportunity to learn about them. And we also have a unique way to look at the show notes. We have a Q&A. So if there's certain questions that you have from this episode, your questions probably were created in it. So you can check out the Q&A portion of the show notes to get some quick answers at a glance to some of the content, some of the questions that may pop up from this episode. Listen, I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to be successful. Most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking. I want you to build pipeline. I want you to close more deals and go out and do big things. See you on the next one.